time with you on this very special occasion. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Oh, thanks so much, Hare Krishna. Everything's coming at me. Thank you for your warmth and your great hospitality. And I guess we'll get right into our little talk, what we want to bring up. Okay, just allow me to do something with a little stool here. We'll get it all together eventually. Okay, Haribo.
Hari.
Narasimha Bhagavan ki
Jai.
Okay. Om Jnana-tamarandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Hare Krishna. Jai, so I got a ride here from Krishna Dulal, and in his car I pulled out something which I think I'd use as a prop. It's a little tiger, and he didn't notice that I was borrowing it. But I'll return it and be a good, sannyasi and return everything. Okay, so everybody's fascinated with wild cats and also tame cats. The whole world is definitely fascinated by these creatures, and tigers included. But of all the different animals from the cat species, lions are kind of unique. We call them pride of lions, or lion pride. That means they operate in as a company. I'm not talking about in any corporate way, but they very closely are tied together as communities, and they work together quite efficiently. And they're known to be very, very cuddly towards each other, and sometimes kind of nasty to each other, to the point where sometimes the young are eaten by the parents, and there's a lot of envy and all. I mean, you probably studied about the wild cats in the wilderness. We don't have lions in this country. Lions are only found in various places in the world. India is one of them. I think one of the common term is sher. Am I right about that? Okay. And of course we use the term singa, which means lion. Lions have been famous even in the famous Sphinx, the sort of lion man that's as a pyramid. It comes from the word singa. So origins of words that have Sanskrit meaning we find are spread throughout the world. But people are fascinated by Narasimha Dev, and he's one of our prominent deities within the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. He rates way up there. And Jagannath is another one. And of course Krishna is up there, and Radha is there. And people like to iconize them by putting them on t-shirts and labels and all kinds of places like that. But Narasimha Dev is a favorite in some ways because he has this mystical power and ability, because he comes across as not just a powerful lion, but also as a human, and half man, half lion, as we say. Narasimha. Nara, it means human, and Singha means lion. What a great combination. Why did Narasimha appeared? Because he was contending with a ferocious creature in the form of Hiranyakashipu. Let's get down to some definitions. Hiranya means gold. Kashipu means cushiony bed. Spending time with the wrong kind of people. And he was a terrorist. A lot of people talk about terrorists these days, but you can say he's one of the, according to Vedic, let's say, accounts of history, he's one of the first. He and his twin brother, Hiranyaksha. So as the word implies, Hiranya, They were interested in gold, riches, and everything that seems to go along with gold. Gold can be a blessing, it can also be a curse. If you carry a lot of gold on you, you'll have lots of friends hanging around your door, you know, and they maybe will kill you for what you've got that's in your possession. So terrorist, how so? Well, Hiranyakashipu was such a powerful dictator that he had even the Trimurti, the devatas that have major functions within the universe, kowtow to him and become basically like they were afraid of him. That's how powerful he had become. So the three Murtis are Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu. And then there was also other incarnations. Narada Muni is listed as one of the prime incarnations amongst 26 or so that also became very fearful towards Hiranyakashipu. That's how powerful he is. Now somebody might ask, how is this possible that manifestations of the Absolute could, let's say, become humble before such a powerhouse of materialism? Because Hiranyakashipu epitomizes everything that is materialistic. Well, we can appreciate that all power comes from the Supreme Lord, and that is expressed in Bhagavad Gita as well by Lord Krishna. He says, I'm the ability in everything. I'm the power. I'm the energy behind everything. So even if energy funnels or channels through a nasty conduit, we must remember that power is coming from Krishna. Of course, ultimately, even though it seemed that Vishnu was, a little bit humble towards this terroristic character, Krishna did come in the form of a lion. And lions are something really to be feared. We call them the king of the jungle. And countries all over the world use lions as logos, even though lions don't exist there. Isn't that true? If you want to start a club and you want something that represents power, you got to put a lion in there, man. With his claws out, And where this story hails from, and the culture of India in the Vedic context, we know lions are very powerful and they're to be feared. One of our very dear devotees from Toronto, he went and collected from 1008 holy bodies of water, jal, holy water, and to everything that whatever the Shastra or holy texts have to say about where there's mention of sacred rivers and ponds and lakes and so on. His name's Nitai Taneja. And he spent quite some time, months, traveling around collecting water from these holy places. And he got to 1008. There was one place which according to Shastra was a very, there was sacred waters there. And people said, no, sher. That means lions are there. Lion, don't go there. Lions are there. But he fearlessly went there and got the water, and he came back alive. Okay? He was kind of lion-hearted about that. It's a great project that he undertook. Remember Sahasratirtha Jal? That was just something that we, was it the centennial year? We to represent, to commemorate Srila Prabhupada's 100 years, his centenary, had he been with us. So that was a special project. And I think everybody fears lions. I ask someone, I go to Africa every year, so how do you guys do it? How do you do it? What do you do if the lion is out there? I said, we just stand there. That's what one answer. Just stand there and just stand there. Don't run away, that gets them all excited. But they are to be feared. They have power in their claws. They have power in their jaws. They're very agile, flexible. They run fast. What else? They can tear you apart very easily. They have keen sense of smell, sight. They measure you up very easily. They can figure you out by your size, your speed, if you are handicapped a little bit, they've got it figured out. They know, I'm going to get that guy out of the whole flock or mob of people, they're very, very intelligent creatures. And that's why they're very revered. And in many traditions, like in the Old Testament, there's images of lions, and practically every culture in the world honors them in some shape or form. So to us, it's no exception. So here God comes in the form of a lion. Isn't that cool? Isn't that just wonderful? And why does he come? Well, he comes because he's dealing with someone who's giving trouble to the world, namely Hiranyakashipu. And Hiranyakashipu had a very clear agenda. And his agenda was, I'm in charge. I'm in control. I'm just going to take over the world. And in fact, with his forces, he did. He usurped the position of Indra, which is in the heavens. And we know that if you study Vedic literature, there are 3 levels, the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems. So practically, he took over all the real estate. He said, I'm in charge. So there was incredible ego behind him. His attitude towards Vishnu was, he's nothing. And I can take him on, if need be. Now we know that it is Vishnu who establishes the laws of nature. And one of those laws is called the law of karma, or the law of action and inherent reaction. So that means that if you do some pious deed, you do something good, you'll get a good reaction. Eventually it'll come to you. You do something very negative, you do something that's of a violent nature and very aggressive and hurtful to others, then the reaction will come negative, right? So he thought, I'm going to change the policy and reverse it. If they say it now, you're like a bad boy or a badass boy, they say that now, then you're good, you're cool, everyone will look at you. You'll get all the attention and all the love that actually has, in most cases, has been missed because of the upbringing of such characters, And so this was his idea. Do something bad and good will come out of it. And that's oftentimes what happens. You get love, you get attention, you get adoration, you get fame, you get profit, and all these things are natural concomitant factors that follow through, like a shadow. So he thought he could do that. And if someone does pious deeds, they will get negative reactions. Did he succeed? No, he did not. Because the forces of nature established by the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be adjusted. It doesn't matter what you think you can do. It just doesn't happen. So Krishna explains that in the Gita that prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha. He says that those persons who feel that they can control nature, the prakriti, material energy, they're actually in big illusion because it's actually the reverse. It's the material nature that is fooling them, that has got them under control. So that is really the story of Hiranyakashipu. He led a very materialistic society. He started a school with a curriculum that teaches Dharma, Artha, and Kama. So Dharma, what does that mean? Honor the gods, respect them, because they're going to give you riches. You be nice to them, they'll be nice to you. You'll get some reciprocation. But it's always a physical reciprocation. It's not a spiritual one necessarily, right? So that was the idea. So do some good things, perform some austerities, do some tapasya. That's what tapasya means, do some austerity. Take on some discipline, and you'll get what you want. That's the idea. And if you want something material and you're determined enough, usually you get it. So that's Dharma. Artha means establishing your economic positions. Okay? So Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu were known as hoarders of gold, as we established earlier on. And from that, once you have the real stuff, not that crude oil that everybody's talking about, No, that's nothing. You know, it's stinky, slimy, blackish. It's dark. It's everything that is not nice. But gold is something really, it's precious. You know? What does that creature say in the Lord of the Rings? Precious.
My precious.
Precious. Okay, everybody from the certain gen know how to say it. Okay. And so once you get your riches, once you establish yourself economically, and in a very fine way, like today we were cruising through the 1,000 Islands, and this one guy, his name was Bolt. He started off working in restaurants, washing pots, and he rose up to become a millionaire so many times. And then he built a house for his wife, a castle, and you've got to see this castle. I mean, it is out of this world. Our cruiser circumambulated, I guess, because it's kind of special. That's the highlight of the whole trip, to see this castle. So a person had all this wealth. He built it up from nothing. As Hiranyakashipu did, he was austere. He stood on his toes for a long period of time, did his tapasya, and stood on his toes with his arms up in the air, just like devotees do. We go Haribol sometimes. Have you noticed? Haribol! That means victory. You're like, yay, jai. Okay. And it was seen that some ants were coming, flesh-eating ants were coming, and having a Sunday love feast with themselves. And then a skeletal frame was just held intact, and somehow his Atma, the soul of Hiranyakashipu, also was retained within that physical frame. He tolerated, in other words. So some people go through incredible lengths to get what they want materially. So this is where Hiranyakashipu stands. He got everything he wanted. As we mentioned, all the real estate, or he thought he had. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram. Maheshwaram is a word that usually is attributed to Shiva, but it's also attributed to Krishna. He uses the word Maheshwara. That means I'm in control of the real estate. I have all the planets under my control. But for a time, Hiranyakashipu seemed to have a grip on things. And so the school of hard knocks, I guess you could say, is that he established this curriculum. The syllabus was that Dharma, Artha, and Kama. Now, those who are familiar with Prabhupada's literatures, you know there's a fourth principle value that must be taken into consideration. And do you know what that is? It's called moksha. Moksha means liberation, a freedom, a letting loose from the repetition of birth and death, samsara. And that was not taught by Hiranyakashipu. He was not interested. Two of his highly esteemed professors in the school, their names were Shanda and Amarka, and they were the direct teachers for Hiranyakashipu's students. Enrolled in the school were his four sons. The prime child amongst them was Prahlada. Most of you have heard of Prahlada. And just as Hiranyakashipu is unpopular or infamous to devotees, Narasimha is famous, and also alongside with him is Prahlada. This little boy was extremely bold. And he went into that school, and during tiffin hour, which is like recess time, he actually started to speak about the glories of the Supreme. And he also, famous verse that came out of his lotus mouth was Kaumaram Apcharit Piragyo Dharman Bhagavatan Iha, which means that when we're young, we must take up the science of the self. Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita that he says, I am the science of the self. So of all sciences, that's the most important one. The one to know which identifies who you are, what's your place in this world, where you will be going, and maybe even where you came from. It's all very important stuff. Good subject matter. But that wasn't a concern for Hiranyakashipu. He wanted everything to stop with him. The buck stops with him. I am the Supreme, I'm to be honored. And that's it. No liberation from this world. And if you want some favors, you come to me. So Hiranyakashipu was, you can say he was one of the first deprogrammers in society. He actually tried to deprogram his child, Prahlada, and he was maybe one of the first child abusers. We hear about child abuse goes on many different levels, psychological, physical, sexual, and so on, and at least some of those were enforced on Prahlada by his father. His father was infuriated because Prahlada, this is the mystical thing, while Prahlada was in the womb of his mother, a saint, a great saint by the name of Narada, came into the palace and spoke about the science of the Absolute. Somehow or other it registered with the child, not so much with the mother. It kind of went over her head, or as I say, in one ear, out the other, kind of like that. It just didn't, she didn't retain it. But the child within did retain it. And that's where he learned about the science of the Absolute. And that's why he was able to speak so eloquently and boldly to his classmates. So complaints came from the teachers. They felt that Prahlada was an upstart. He's confusing everybody. He's taking everyone off track and putting them in a different direction, not in the direction of Hiranyakashipu. The famous verse from Prahlada is, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam, and so on. If the verse was Shravanam Kirtanam Hiranyakashipuanam, it would have been perfect, because that means hear and chant about the glories of Hiranyakashipu. All right. But what came out of Prahlada's mouth, when his father questioned, what's going on in school? What are you doing? Prahlada's answer was, well, I feel I know a few things, and one of them is Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaram Padasevanam Arjanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atmani Vedanam. There are 9 features to my understanding of the Absolute Truth, and in my school of learning it's 9 principles, not 3. 9. So I'm just paraphrasing. So and the final one is Atmani Vedanam, which means that you simply surrender, you let go, let God, as the phrase goes. Just let it go. Do not resist. And people always resistance. So here you're supposed to take up some discipline, which Prahlada did. And Prahlada also was the master of Smaranam, his recollection of the Absolute. Always on his mind, there was Savayamana Krishna, Padara Vindayo. On his mind, it was always Krishna, or things connected to Krishna. It was always there. So this infuriated Hiranyakashipu. Said, I will not have this in my domain. I will not have it. And he would not tolerate. And he decided that he would put Prahlada through some, I guess, like in modern day terms, Chinese chamber torture methods and so on like that. And nothing worked. The weight of a lion, the pit of snakes, hurling him off from a steep cliff. He came out unscathed. The boy was unharmed completely, because his meditation was very firm and very fixed. I would say, don't try this. Don't be too bold. Don't try to be Superman, and just try to remember Krishna and just jump out of a 28th story. Don't be foolish. We are not Prahlada. By the way, this is also a very specific lila, a pastime, which is to help us understand the almighty power of the Supreme, who can come in any shape or form. So God appears in a very appropriate manner. Krishna has a big wardrobe, and he can open it up. oh, I'll be a lion today. I'll be a turtle tomorrow, you know. Whatever is appropriate. We went to see the twins there in Picton yesterday, and they've got Prima the pig. 3 years ago, she was like this, and a little cute little thing. Now she's, wow. Wouldn't want to wrestle with that thing. So the Lord can come in any shape or form at will for the appropriate situation. As a massive bore, to use this now to pull the Earth planet out of, you know, like a devastating liquid situation, the causal oceans. What else? He appeared as a fish, which would help save the Vedic literatures from, you know, dissolving into oblivion. And so on and so forth. As a lion, to intimidate those who are hard to intimidate. So special features of Narasimha, as we mentioned, you know, so lower part, you know, man, upper part, lion, pointed ears, very fine manicured nails. Didn't have to go to any, you know, place for getting the job done. It's just natural to him. Teeth, fangs that come out and do an incredible scissor job on anybody who comes close. And not only that, but we forgot to mention one mystical power of the lion. They have a thunderous resonance that comes out of their mouth. It is a booming voice that alone will maybe kill you, give you a heart attack. And this was actually the device that was used. All the devices by the Lord, a surgical operation he did on Hiranyakashipu. And devotees sometimes look at this as pastime. I know I was doing a presentation in Peterborough some years ago, and this was for a vegetarian group. And it happened to be the day of Narasimha. And I just mentioned, okay, that we're having, this is a special day. We always do, I was doing cooking demo and then doing a mantra meditation. And I mentioned that this is a very special day on our calendar. It's one of the avatars, you know? And then one of my godbrothers, I won't mention his name, he lives in Florida. He volunteered to explain it in great detail, gory detail with intestinal dynamics. And shut up. Okay, to understand these, you know, how the Lord operates, it's glorious for the devotees. Now, many people would say, no mercy for this Hiranyakashipu. No mercy. He is oppressive and nasty. Doesn't deserve to live. But, on the other hand, Prahlada, his own son, who was at the end of the stick, you can say, of torture, when he had the opportunity to offer, to do something with his father, the verdict was on. Hiranyakashipu's verdict was on that Narasimha, half man, half lion, said, what should we do now? What do you want from me? What shall we do with this guy? Prahlada says, I feel sorry for my father. I hope that we can help him out. We can help him out. And he doesn't. Let's bless with pure devotion. Let that be the case. Even more important than moksha, freedom from birth and death scenario, let there be devotional service come to this person. So Prahlada didn't have a nasty bone in his body. He was a saint, you know, and we can learn from this pastime how to be a saint. And it's always like that. It's always the saint and the swindler kind of like juxtaposed to each other, you know. So make your comparison. Which category do you want to be in? Of course, in the kind of culture that we live in, the dark culture we live, I want to be the demon. When we sometimes do, dramas, and I try to get the cast members together, everybody like, I want to be a demon, I want to be a demon. Everybody wants to be a demon. I said, don't any of you guys want to be a saint? No. It's a little bit on the boring side. But we do have to look at long-term situations. You know, you have to invest. Everybody talks about investment. So if you go to school or you further your education, you know it's for long-term benefit, or you get some training in some shape or form. It's for ultimate benefit, right? And those who are not interested in that kind of thing, no, I'm just going to do my, my illegal whatever. I've got my ways of doing things, my underhanded ways of, achieving what I want to. So it seems that you do have a choice here, how to live. And for those who are who opt for the going down the dark tunnel, they will, certainly get some benefits. It's just like if you talk to anybody who says, I take drugs. So, oh, really? How's it doing for you? Oh, I feel so good. I feel so good. Yeah, you feel so good, but how do you feel after? What's the after effects? Oh, not so good. So isn't it good to look at the long-term results? Shouldn't we be looking always at that when we make choices? And everybody makes choices in this world. Isn't it true? Isn't it a fact? So go for that which is of ultimate benefit. And Prabhupada talks about that in terms of Shreyas and Preyas. Preyas means what is for immediate benefit. I'm going to have a good time. I'm going to party. But any party goers, anybody been to a party here ever? I'm talking about the wild ones. I'm not talking about Hare Krishna parties. Because there's something different. But the category of wild parties. It's always fun. There's wild music. Music's so loud you can't hear anybody. There's usually sexual exploitations. There's usually you get intoxication big time. There's just all kinds of, and sometimes fights break out, and people pull hair out of each other's heads. And all kinds of interesting, fun, entertaining dynamics take place, and like for short term, the party's great, but long term, and then the next day, and people vomit, all kinds of things, So this is, we have to not be short-sighted in these matters of how to live as a human being, but be very long-term sighted. See what's good in the end. So that means that in the beginning, whatever you do, decisions involve discipline, study, training, so that there will be of ultimate benefit in a person's life. So that's the way we have to see it like that. There's a sattvic path, there's a rajasic path, and there's also a tamasic path. Actually, you have three choices, three ways in which to live. There are three energies in this world. So we mentioned prayas. Prayas means when you should be praying. And Shreyas means for ultimate benefit, And Prabhupada gives a nice transcendental example. Mother Yashoda is calling for Krishna. And he's saying, come now. Krishna, come. You must eat. It's time for supper. You have to come. Nanda's here. We must eat together like a family. Like in the 50s. You remember? Families all ate together in the 50s. We were so-called happy. And there was no fast food. Everybody ate together around the table, right? And so it was time to eat. And so she said, Krishna, you have to come now. And Krishna, no, I just want to play. So Prabhupada actually explains, he gives this example. Krishna was thinking of prayas, which means, no, just long, I'm just going to have fun. Mother Yashoda's intent was, you have to eat now, so you'll have nourishment, so you can continue to play, How long can a child play, by the way? Forever, until their energy runs out. And then, boom, isn't it? Just like that, it hits them like a bomb, Is that true, parents? You just go, high energy, not even taking sugar, and climbing the walls, and then suddenly they come down, and that's it. Okay, there is an end. There is an end. When we take to the sattvic path, there is no end, because there you work on, you ride on the wave of wisdom, that's the whole thing. You become wise, and how to become wise, because that's one of the most wealthy things that you could ever have in this world. You serve the wise. Tadvidi pranipatina pariprashnena sevya upadekshanti te jnanam Jnaninas Tattva Darshana. That's from chapter 4, text 34. I asked Connor if he could learn that verse amongst a few others. So To become wise, you serve the wise. That it's all there. It's right jam-packed in that shloka from chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita. So this is a beautiful story about, the good and bad and the ugly, and which path to take. And yes, we need to emulate the qualities of Prahlada and not those of Hiranyakashipu. I must make a confession. Let me tell you a confession. The other day, it just kind of, I work with my office, which is my phone, my telephone, and things pop up. So one thing that popped up was, "What's my line?" And it was an old TV game show. Lakshma Muni will remember this. What's my line, right? So you have 4 contestants, and they sit in a panel, and then there's a moderator, and it's a black and white piece, so you'll like it, okay? So someone comes in, and the contestants are not allowed to see what is the occupation of that person. So this was a nun that came on, and she wrote on the chalkboard, "dentist." Now, who would ever figure out that a nun is a dentist? Now, what is interesting about looking at this whole game show, which I think it lasted maybe 15 minutes or so, I said, wow, the kind of respect that people had in those days, the kind of, the jokes were clean, everything was so prim and proper, I'd say, compared to how it is now. You just have to look at one of those vintage things and say, wow, that's the way people were. And then look at the way we are now. Okay, I'm telling you. So it's, can we go backwards? Can we turn the clock back? It's hard to do. I go to Trinidad every year, and their symbol of their logo is the hummingbird. And it does this, millions of times. There's several within 1 second, but always goes backwards. That's about the only thing that makes progress that goes backwards. But progressing in Kali Yuga is, it means become nasty, be a jerk, do all the wrong things, and you'll get loved, So Krishna always has a plan for these kind of dynamics, and he'll come as some avatar perhaps, or we understand that you don't have to wait for an avatar now. You don't have to wait for a Messiah. You simply have to be happy with what has come to you. And what has come to us today? The name, sacred name. I remember it's 1978, and His Holiness Satsvarup Maharaj came to Toronto, and he came for a short visit. This is shortly after Prabhupada left, and there was a big seat for him. I always admired him. I thought he was wonderful, one of the really cool godbrothers, much older. And then, so he was quoting from the Bhagavatam, Kaler dosha nidhi rajan. So that's about Kaler, that means Kali. What do we find in Kali? It's an ocean of faults, a lot of nonsense, a lot of crap. A lot of crap, a lot of rap. Oh, excuse me. Well, I'm sorry. Then he says, Kirtanad eva Krishnasya mukta sangha parang brajet. That even though we live in this ocean of difficulties and challenges and faults, we have one good thing, and that is the avatar of Kirtan. Kirtan, the manifestation of sacred sound. So we don't have to wait for a lion necessarily, although he comes to us every year in a very pronounced way. And indeed, we should remember him every day of our life, as it's a component to our chanting, our mantras that we chant. Namaste Narasimha. Prabhupada taught us out of the 10 major avatars, he kind of pulled that one out and said, this is the one you sing for protection. Prabhupada was not physically well. So Nrsimhadev is or should be on our minds every day. But let's say the prominent feature of this age, Kali Yuga, is this kirtan, the chant. So you do that in unison, we do it together. We have japa, which is done sort of like solo. We sometimes have a small group of people. I know we have some really good singers here in our midst. And am I right about that? Some
Yes.
really good bhajan singers. And that's, a small group of people. But then we have kirtan or sankirtana, which means a lot of people together, having a good time. That's what it is. Jai. So, on this special day, we remember Narasimha Dev, who does come to protect those who are devoted, and fulfilling the prophecy by Krishna, that fourth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he says that duskritina, for those who are miscreants, I take care of them. For those who are sadhus, I protect them. And then to bring about the peace, and to keep the peace, I establish dharma. Dharma, I fix it, I anchor it, so that people can follow that. And that's why I come, Krishna says. So that's why he's here. And now we will remember him. I'm so glad he came this year on a Friday evening. Everyone likes Friday night, isn't it? It's a nice time, and to celebrate it on the actual day, which is just great. So I really appreciate you all coming out here today and reflecting on one of our favorite avatars. And there's much more you can read about him in the 7th canto of the Bhagavatam. And Prahlada's glories are also honored in this same canto. So I particularly have a great time putting together dramas to do with stories like this. And we're ready to take any little kid here, to be ready to play Prahlada. And then some nasty jerk in the audience can play Hiranyakashipu and enact the pastime, which is so nice, such a nice, happy ending. I mean, some of our stories are so gruesome. They're so violent and cruel. I can still remember my first Janmashtami. And I went to New Vrindavan, and we were celebrating Janmashtami. And Krishna grabbed a hold of Kamsa, put him down on the ground, and straddled him on the chest again, hit him again and again, and everyone was going, yay, yay. And I had a moment of, I guess, Maya said, what movement did I join? Did I make a mistake here? There's a bunch of sadistic people here, I thought I was joining like a nice peace-loving, love-it, groovy kind of society, and we're kind of cheering all these, this violence. And Krishna does like to get into rough stuff, but ultimately is into the peace. Brother. Hare Krishna. So thank you very much. Do we have any other, does anybody have any questions or comments they'd like to bring up, raise? Yes, thank you.
There are many avatars. Why we sing Narasimha?
Well, he's significantly, he protects his devotees. I think that's, like we said, it's a prophecy from the Gita. People need to know that when you are devoted, there is someone there looking out for you. And so in a very profound way, Krishna has come in this image. So I think it's just, of the Leelas, I think it just hits people's hearts a little bit more. A vulnerable child who's extremely devoted gets protected by this amazing avatar. I mean, really, you can choose any of the avatars and honor them, and there's no problem. You give them incense and so on like that. Some or other, Prahlada has become famous and is very much endeared by the bhakti yogis in the Krishna consciousness movement. So there are 10 prominent, let's say, popular avatars. The Bhagavatam lists about 26 or so. But the first canto of the Bhagavatam explains that there are as many avatars as there are waves on the ocean. So that would be very hard to say, well, which wave should I choose, which avatar? So I think it's popularity by the intensity of the story and so on like that. Prahlada just comes across as a superhero. Everybody loves a good story is where there is an underdog, and then an overgod, and being abused, and then everything turns around that this person is ultimately protected and preserved and saved. It's a storyline that gets repeated again and again. But what's unique about our stories is that we're talking about divine beings, not superheroes. There's like Narasimha Dev doesn't have kryptonite to worry about. He doesn't have to worry about. There's nothing that will weaken him, except for the love of his devotees. So that's really what is drawn out of the story: the love of his devotees and how he protects that. Somebody else had their hand up over here. Somebody had their line in this direction here.
I had,
Okay.
to those who are not very well tutored about Krishna and the world of Krishna, and they come upon the story of Hiranyakashipu and Prahlada.
Yes.
Sometimes
Turns
there's
them
some
off.
symbolism there, and we can say by way of mythology that this is somebody could have, if they appeared as humans, the power of a lion, okay, and also the power of it's kind of synthetic, Can we explain it that way? I mean,
I think some people
to
might not
somebody
be ready to take
who's
everything
doubting.
literally. Not everybody's ready to take these events as historical events. Some people just want to take it symbolically or figuratively. And that's okay. At least they're starting somewhere. At least people should understand there's good and evil forces, and we should always vie for the good forces and not the evil ones. So it's a start for some people. And we should not knock that, right? We should not discourage people if that's the level that they can accept, Even it's the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna may represent ultimate goodness, but he's figurative. At least let's get people on a path of goodness, And eventually they'll come around. Oh yeah, after having several plates of prasadam and done some service here. Oh, I get it now. This is the real thing. Patience is required, for people who are coming from a very, let's say, materialistic lifestyle, and then to suddenly throw themselves, to parachute into a spiritual scenario. It's difficult. So we have to appreciate that people are trying to understand, and they're coming closer and closer. Is that okay? TK. TK means trust Krishna. Anything else? I think that's good. We've gone over time like about a minute and a half, so I want to thank you very much for listening, and it's great to share time with you. For some of you who are not aware, tomorrow we're having our farmers conference, our annual farmers conference, just outside of Montreal at the new property site they have, Nandagram. And if you're interested in attending, let me know. We'll set you on the track for going there. And that's my announcement. You probably have some announcements which is going to sway people in another direction. And that's also okay, as long as it's all in Krishna's service. Okay, So thank you. If we don't see you tomorrow, we don't see you in June, we'll see you in July. July 1st, Canada Day. Yeah. I hope that the heat Krishna will turn the thermostat down a little bit, because it was just, I never had such an experience before in my life. Last year, like even in India, I've been like 40 degrees. I've never had that experience, and it was in Ottawa of all places. It was something. There was an amazing reduction of attendance because of that heat wave, isn't it?
Yeah.
Those of you who are here remember. No, those of you who survived. Okay, great. So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Singha Bhagavan ki Jai. Maharaj ki Jai.
His Holiness Bhaktimarga Swami ki Jai.